On the morning of July 14th, 1789, hundreds of Parisians stormed the Bastille, a state prison, seizing 250 barrels of gunpowder and freeing its prisoners. The storming of the Bastille was a pivotal moment in the French Revolution, the violent result of a multitude of social, economic, and political crises. In the days leading up to the conflict, royal troops were gathered around Paris, a move made by King Louis XVI in response to the lower classes establishing the National Assembly and demanding a new constitution and social reform. Along with the increased military presence came the dismissal of Finance Minister Jacques Necker, who had argued for giving concessions to the National Assembly. These events spurred Parisians to begin protesting and assembling arms in fear of the arrest of the National Assembly. Although the Bastille was becoming obsolete as a prison, holding only 7 inmates at the time of the assault, it was seen as a symbol of royal tyranny. A large crowd gathered around the Bastille with muskets, swords, and other weapons to demand the cannons and gunpowder stored in the prison. After hours of battle, the Bastille's military governor, Bernard-René Jourdan de Launay, surrendered. The crowd flooded in, taking the gunpowder and freeing the prisoners. Delaunay was seized and brought to the city hall, where he was killed and his head was put on a pike. The Bastille's fall gave momentum to the rest of the French Revolution, leading to the execution of the royal family and eventually the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte. It symbolized the end of the ancien régime and eventually became memorialized as the French holiday Bastille Day.
If there's an enduring image of the French aristocracy in the English-speaking world, it's probably of a woman in a frilly dress and about 2 feet of hair piled on her head, addressing the question of her subjects being too poor to buy bread with an oblivious, "let them eat cake." That woman was Marie Antoinette, who was the Queen of France during the French Revolution. But while her dress was indeed frilly and her hair was indeed tall, could she really have said something so clueless? The evidence suggests that she didn't. How do we know? Oh, there are lots of reasons. Starting with the fact that in French, the quote isn't even about cake. It's about brioche. Qu'il mange de la brioche. Brioche is delicious. It's a rich, buttery bread, and it has strong associations with decadence. But if you ever try to serve a big loaf of brioche to the guests at a child's birthday party, you'll find out real quick that it is not, in fact, cake. But either way, the point of the quote is that this out-of-touch aristocrat didn't understand the realities of life as a peasant, so maybe that's a semantic quibble. The real evidence against Marie Antoinette having uttered this famous phrase is that, well, it was around long before she was. Scholars of folklore have found versions of the same quote, with some variations, across Europe. In 16th century Germany, there was a story of a noblewoman wondering why the hungry peasants didn't eat crosum, a kind of sweetbread. There's no evidence that Marie Antoinette ever said, "let them eat cake." But we do know people have been attributing the phrase "qu'il mange de la brioche" to her for nearly 200 years, and debunking it for just as long. The first time the quote was connected to Antoinette in print was in 1843. A French writer named Jean-Baptiste Alphonse Carre reported finding the quote in a book from 1760, when Marie Antoinette was just 5 years old. He hoped this would end the rumor that she was responsible for the famous phrase once and for all. Sorry about that, Jean-Baptiste. We're trying.